Reducing carbon emissions and improving soil carbon is really important for us, and we are so excited to know that beef and grazing beef can be part of the solution to climate change. Stuart and Erica Halliday. We have a Angus stud and we live in Walcha in northern New South Wales. We learn everything the hard way, and for us it was the drought, like it was for many people, when we saw what was usually a system that didn't challenge us, that was easy to run, that was safe and simple, and we saw it collapse big time all around us, and we knew that we had to do something differently because we kept on trying to do the same things and intensify that, and we kept getting a lesser and lesser result. So
basically we had 2.5 years of fallow, and there was not a blade of grass on that country. It was very compacted. As soon as it rained, most of our topsoil went to the next door neighbours. And so we need to look for alternative ways to manage animals but keep animal production up. And so that's where the instigation of change for us came from.
We just looked at this country that we thought we were doing the right thing with, and it was blowing away. And the native country that we hadn't poisoned was fine. And at the time we didn't understand why, thought we were doing the right thing. So now we're on a mission to build that topsoil back up. The economics was a really big part of that. We went, well, going forward, can we afford this high input system that we have set up for maximum performance? So we looked to start to find another way. After years and years of trying to grow these perfect little ryegrass plants, we had all these weeds come up, and we were like, so excited to see something green. And the most remarkable thing happened, the cattle were too, and the cattle started eating all these things that we didn't think that they were meant to eat. And then we wanted to start experimenting with multi-species cover crops, and so we contacted our agronomist and asked him to put one together for us, which he did, a wonderful mix of grasses, forbs, legumes, deep taprooted, some of them with big tubers breaking into the ground, working into the hard compacted ground, trying to start to grow back a mycorrhizal fungi for us so that we could start to get our plants working to pick up what was deep below in the earth rather than relying us to put it in from above.
I think if we're going to be sustainable, we've got to get towards minimising the amount of tillage that goes on. If we can get away from working the soil and let the plants do the work in terms of increasing organic carbon and also softening the soil up by having that higher level of organic matter in there, better water infiltration. I think if we're going to see more and more high intensity rainfall events and less frequency of them, then we've got to be able to capture that runoff in the paddock. And the history of putting contours in and trying to divert water off paddocks and things, well, I think that's gone. We've got to be able to capture it where it falls and make something grow with it.
The rotational grazing is really important because we're after maximum photosynthesis to do that, and the best way to get maximum photosynthesis, you could either cut a plant off with a machine like a diesel run machine, or you could do what nature intended, and that's using grazing mouths. So they come along, they graze a third, they leave a third, and what happens then, you get a mulch on the ground, and then they get a period of rest so that the mulch on the ground can then start to form over time topsoil. The plant is left with enough solar panels to capture enough maximum energy from the sun to maximise the rate of photosynthesis at that point.
We needed to introduce building soil. As a result of our disgruntledness with the loss of topsoil, we went, righto, let's introduce species, but let's do it in a different way. There'll be experimenting going forward too. We won't find the perfect species, but we're thinking if we're starting to introduce these grasses, the ones that are working for us will, if we rest them and allow them to seed at certain times of the year, they'll be the ones that'll dominate.
Yeah. So we're actually letting nature decide which grows the following year, which is what we're sort of seeing now after starting last year. The ones that suit this country and this environment have reseeded and regrown, and we're just throwing extra cool stuff in there for both the benefits of the soil and the benefits of the cattle.
You're never going to get one thing that suits everybody, and you've got to find what works for everybody is not the same as what works for their neighbour, because they've all got different focuses and different targets.
We were comparing the bulls running on that as opposed to running on straight oats, and they were doing 0.2 kilos a day better on the multi-species.
From a health perspective, they were very shiny, and we didn't have to put any more inputs into the system, which we would normally do. What we are seeing is less metabolic issues. From a weaning perspective, we're starting to see the animals that were weaned onto the multi-species do far better in that initial period.
The big economic benefit that we have found immediately is that we haven't spent $250,000 on superphosphate. You know, we've spent $60,000 to $70,000 on seed. So there's an immediate benefit there.
Yeah, I'm super excited by it. I think they're on the right track, particularly in this type of environment. I just think this sort of thing here where you've got a lot of vigour and the right climate to do it, I just think you've got to get the best out of that environment. You've got such high land values and things now, you've got to get a return off it. You've got to drive the system hard but sustainably, and this multi-species is the way to go with that.
We are absolutely determined to leave the land in a better state than what we got it, and to regenerate not only the soils and the pasture but also the trees, putting in wildlife corridors. We want to make this something for all time and something that generations to come will be proud of. Look, for other producers out there that are interested in getting into this, I know that it can be a bit overwhelming to start with. There are a number of books that are available to read about it, and then you're going to start to find a group that will be near you because there is a groundswell of regenerative agriculture happening. We also went onto the MLA website and we joined a benchmarking group so that we can get a baseline accounting going from there, and we can also get some help with some of the procedures that we need to put in place. So we're working really hard at using plants and animals to sequester carbon from the atmosphere and putting it back into the soil. We are going to be carbon neutral at least by 2030, but our aim is to be a net carbon sink. And cattle are a critical part of that system because they're part of a natural carbon cycling system. We need animals to graze grass so that grass photosynthesizes, and that photosynthesis process as a result of that takes carbon from the atmosphere and buries it in the soil where it does good.